Welcome to Fox 23's FRIGID, where we take a deep dive with a keen eye into cold cases across the state of Oklahoma. My name is Kaylie Cotten, and today I'm joined by Lorene Bible. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Today we're discussing a case that many of you know out of Welch, the 1999 disappearances of Laura Bible and Ashley Freeman, and we're speaking with Lorene, Laura's mother. So Laura and Ashley were last seen in December of 1999. Laura had gone to Ashley's house to spend the night, right?
Mm-hmm.
Little did anyone know the tragedy that would occur later that night, leading to the deaths of Ashley's parents and the disappearance of the two girls. It's now been nearly, 26 years since your daughter and her friend were believed to be abducted. Could you give me kind of a timeline of that night based on what you know and what you've been told?
Okay, well, Ashley had come to our house right after Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
She'd come to our house on Sunday night, Christmas night,
Mm-hmm.
and she'd stayed Sunday night, Monday, and then Tuesday afternoon, the girls drove back to Ashley's. So that they could be she was going to stay Tuesday night with Ashley, so they'd take her out and celebrate her birthday on Wednesday.
Ashley's birthday?
She was 16.
Mm-hmm.
So, the girls got up and left our house about 2. It's 13 miles north of our house to the Freeman's house. And got there Tuesday night. Nothing happened. Wednesday, they were late getting up, so it was in the afternoon before they got to Bonita, took Ashley out to eat, went shopping at Walmart. Then they went and stopped at Ashley's grandma's. So she, her grandma could give her birthday present.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was dark. It's December. It gets dark at about 5 o'clock. Well, we don't allow Laura to drive at night by herself.
Mm-hmm.
So Kathy said, well, let's stop on the way back to Welch. Let's stop off at your house and see if they'll let you stay another night. Mm-hmm. And then you can come home in the morning. And so they stopped at the house. Said, instead of you guys having to drive to Welch to get Laura, she can come home tomorrow morning. Well, she'd already stayed Tuesday night. Mm-hmm. Nothing happened. So what's one more night?
Right. And
it was at probably 7:45 the next morning. I worked at the McDonald's on the corner in Bonita, and a police officer, a sheriff deputy, come in and asked me if I knew who Ashley Freeman was. Right before then, Brad called me, my older son, called me and said, Mom, his girlfriend had called him and told him that the Freeman's house was on fire. So I said, well, on fire doesn't mean it's burnt to the ground and there's bodies. So I told him, well, get in there and go check on your sister, because we tried calling and the phones didn't ring through.
Mm-hmm.
It just rang nobody answered.
Right.
So the deputy come in, wanted to know if I knew Ashley Freeman. I said, yes, that's my daughter's best friend, and she stayed the night at their house. He just looked at me, and I said, why, what's wrong? I said, well, my son's on his way there because someone called him and told him that the house was on fire. I could tell by his look on his face that it was bad. So I asked him, he said, do you know the layout of the Freeman's house? I said, yeah, you walk in the front door, you walk in front of a wood stove. To the right is the living room, to the left is Danny and Kathy's bedroom. You go a little further into the actual trailer home is the kitchen, dining room. Back to the right is Shane, their son, was his bedroom. And down the hallway is the bathroom, and at the end of that hallway is Ashley's room.
Mm-hmm.
He said, okay. And I said, well, why? What's going on? He said, well, the house is burnt to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay. Just like this, I'm having this conversation with him. And he says, I said, well, did you find anybody? He said, yes, but I'm not supposed to tell anything. So he pretty quick said, well, if we hear anything, we'll call you.
Mm-hmm.
I called my husband. He worked in Langley, and he got there in 15 minutes, and we went to the Freeman property. Got there and set 1,000 foot down the driveway, and they'd found Kathy laying over the waterbed. The only floor left on the house that hadn't burned was where their waterbed was in Danny and Kathy's bedroom. And her body was laying over it. Now, at that time, they wasn't saying who it was, but, I mean, that was Danny and Kathy's room.
Right.
And so we waited. When we got there, our county deputies and sheriff were sitting down. They'd already called the OSBI. They wasn't touching the scene due to the year-long fight between Danny and the sheriff department, because almost a year to the day, 9 days later, is their son was shot and killed by one of our county deputies. So it was a year of fight between Danny and the sheriff department.
So they kind of had a rough history. And so
a rough history. So when the minute they go in there and they find Kathy's body laying over the bed, they immediately said, we're not touching the scene because of everything that went on before. So we wait about 11 o'clock. The OSBI agent, Steve Nutter, showed up with some of his, went up there and saw the body, called the county coroner. And we had to wait for her to come out because she was already at another scene of a bad accident. And she finally got there about 2:30. By the time they go up, and then she was my parents' doctor. And I told her, I said, is that Kathy? And she said, she's got a ring on her left finger. And she said, I know that I can tell that she's birthed children. So right then and there, I knew that it was Kathy. But they didn't, move anything around, looked anywhere. But by 5 o'clock, they closed the scene up, released the scene back to the family, and said there was no other bodies in that fire.
So the whole time you're like, where's my daughter?
Right, because this happened, the fire was about 5 a.m. when the neighbors were going to work, and Sergeant went over and went up the road and called 911. So it's they should have been in that fire. Their bodies should be somewhere in all that mess. Well, there's no other bodies in there. How do you know that? You didn't move anything. Everything, when it fell through the floor, was still on the ground, except for what was on the waterbed. On the floor with the only floor. So they tell us, well, you're going to come to town. We're going to meet with you. We're going to tell you how we're going to find the girls. Well, at some point that day, along the way, somebody had called in the tip that they'd seen Danny Freeman in a white Ford truck with the two girls, and he wanted to trade the girls for the sheriff deputy that shot Shane.
And remind me who Danny Freeman was?
Danny was Ashley's dad.
Okay. So her mom was found dead following the fire. The girls were missing, and Danny wasn't there either.
Danny wasn't there either. So I didn't find that out till about 9:30. After we'd done to the sheriff department, nobody would say, hey, this tip got called in. So about 9:30, somebody calls and say, hey, did you hear that there was a tip called in today? So to them, we can't find Danny, so he's gone off the deep end because of his year-long, fight with the sheriff department. He's got the girls. So they didn't look.
Okay.
So we're sitting there, and I called up and I said, okay, we've been there for 2.5 hours. We was out at the Freemans from 8:30 till 5. Nobody said that there was somebody calling. Well, it's an open investigation. Well, this concerns me. Y'all need to be talking.
Right.
So the next morning, we're up all night. We had family and friends that went out and scattered around that area to see if anybody was watching it, if people were trying to go up to the Freemans. And then at daybreak, which is about 5:45, 6 o'clock, my husband and I drive back up to the Freemans. Danny's stepbrother went over to the place that, quote, Danny supposedly was seen. Where they used, as kids, they lived at about 3 miles on west of where the Freeman property was. Well, Dwayne got there, and they found out that it was Hunter and his 2 sons had been there all week because it's deer season.
Yeah.
But by the time Dwayne got back there, Jay and I had gone up, got out of the vehicle, got over into the burn, and on the only floor that's left on the west side of the trailer was Danny Freeman's body. He was laying there face up, but he didn't have a face. His face had been blowed off. Laying there, I mean, you could see where the Steve Snider, the investigator, had walked on him the day before because he was the only one in cowboy boots. And the imprint on his body, all the way down his legs, was that of a cowboy boot.
So, obviously, if that's the case, then they would have had to have seen him.
If they'd have looked, they'd have seen him. So at that point, they're telling me and my husband, by that time, my brothers, my son, our neighbors that we knew, Dwayne got there and he said, well, it's not Danny. That wasn't Danny. I said, well, it couldn't be Danny. He's been laying up here on this floor all night.
Yeah.
Step over here and take a look.
Oh, my God.
He said, how did they miss this? Well, by then, it became that it was too hot that day. They couldn't go through. They couldn't touch all the stuff that was probably supposedly laying on top of a body.
Did they not have, like, a fire crew out there when it happened?
Well, by this time, because the Welch is a volunteer fire department, they'd sit there putting out there, and they didn't see the county doing anything. And when Steve Nutter, who was also the investigator on their son's shooting, oh, this is just, and he was dead certain that Danny had went off the deep end, shot Kathy, and abducted the girls. In his mind, that's what it was.
So now we have both Kathy and Danny in the home, and still nobody knows where the girls are.
And the girls are nowhere to be found.
How long were Laura and Ashley friends?
Oh, they, when they were little, Danny and Kathy lived across the section from us, a mile across the section from us. So they grew up together, started school at Blue Jacket. When Ashley was a sixth grader when they moved 13 miles straight north from where she grew up. So they were staying, even though they went to different schools, Laura went to Blue Jacket, it's 5 miles to the Welch school.
Yeah.
So that were county schools. So that's how they become friends.
And did you always have a good relationship with Danny and Kathy?
Kathy, yes. Danny, he was kind of strange. Mamas, you associate with other mamas and your kids. When they're play dates, the dads don't usually get involved in any of that.
Yeah.
So, no.
But you had a good relationship with Kathy. So now that we've kind of seen the timeline of that night specifically, I kind of want to backtrack a little bit and just talk about Laura and who she is. So tell me about Laura.
Well, she's, like any 16-year-old girl. I mean, she was the oldest one in her class. But she was a cheerleader. She was in FFA. She had just got, in December, she just got nominated for the National Honor Society of Blue Jacket to go on their National Honor Society. She had her own babysitting service. She would babysit people's kids. She'd take her own little suitcase full of whatever she needed. In fact, the other day, a girl that I forgot she babysitted from Blue Jacket come by the store that I've opened in the girls' honor and said, I was one of Laura's babysitting kids.
Oh.
So, she just, fun-loving, always doing something.
Always very involved.
Yeah.
So being a mom obviously comes with a different level of anxiety that nobody else can possibly relate to. But did you ever think something like this could happen to your daughter?
No, never.
Yeah.
Never.
I mean, when I speak to my mom, she'll have these fears of, it's always like text me when you get home or call me when you get home or anything like that. And I'm always like, oh, that's just mom. But she has such anxiety for me and what can happen. And so, when you were told what happened, what was your immediate reaction?
Just what I'm doing now. I mean, the deputy that come there, and he's also the deputy after we found Danny's body that I called back to 911, told him who I was, where I was at. There's another body in this fire. They sent him back out there. And at that point, he's like, These were the experts. They were supposed to know their job. Yeah, that's what they kept telling us. But, my whole thing was, where are the girls? That has been my focus. Many people have told me I should have started immediately, against our county deputies at the time, sheriff department, OSBI at the time. Once, we found Danny's body, I should have went back and opened up a court case and started suing people. But that's how we got where we were, because Danny and our sheriff department fought for a year. I did not want to take the focus off the girls.
Obviously, Laura being your daughter, that makes sense why you'd be so focused. Did you feel, obligated to also take on, searching for Ashley and Ashley's case in this as well, now that her parents were gone?
Right. Well, once we found out there was nobody there, well, who's going to step up for Ashley?
Right.
I mean, in the initial first days, her step-uncle, Dwayne Bansell, he did a lot, her grandparents, Danny's dad and stepmom, which was Dwayne's mom, they were there. People were looking. But if it ain't your blood, ain't nobody looking for you. And then in 2012, they legally declared Ashley dead.
In 2012?
2012.
But did they declare Laura dead?
I told them I'd never do that till I get bodies they want. But that was over, the Freemans lived on 40 acres. And somebody had to start paying that bank loan, which was Danny's dad. Well, he wanted the title to it. So in order to do that, you have to, with Danny dead, Kathy dead, Shane dead, Ashley was the other one. So they went and to get clear title to that 40 acres. Then it went to three grandparents. Ashley's mom, Kathy's mom, Celeste, Danny's birth mother, Barbara, and then Glenn Freeman, Danny's dad. And these two ladies was intimidated by Glenn Freeman, so they just walked away from it.
So I kind of want to talk about, your mental health through all of this, because this is incredibly rough and it's something that very few people can relate to. How have you coped with, carrying this type of tragedy for now nearly 26 years?
Mine is always every day is what do I need to do to find the girls? In the first 4 months, we probably drove 600,000 miles between Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. People would call us up, hey, you need to go look here. We would do that.
So you've just kind of stayed driven. And did you ever feel like you should give up? Have you ever felt exhausted?
No. On the third day, the girls disappeared. By that time, after we took Danny's body out of the fire, we took that place to the ground. The OSBI agents were like, you all need to get back. No, this is not your scene. You released it at 5 o'clock yesterday. Yes or no? Well, yeah, but now that there's no this about it. We have 150 people standing out here helping us once Danny's body was removed, to remove everything in that home and stack it in the thing. Well, what are you looking for? I'm looking for 2 little girls' bodies is what I'm looking for.
What are you looking for?
Well, we don't think they're there. And I said, well, you didn't think Danny was here, but he's been here all night.
You walked over him and you didn't think he was here.
I said, he's got his footprints all on him. So, no. So we staged a line, and our neighbors, the community, and we took everything. The refrigerators, the deep freezers, the table, the chairs, the sofas, you name it, we picked it up. It got past till we had a big pile of stuff out of the house. And then we had people bring in chalk saws, and we cut the trailer axles and pulled the trailer apart, and we actually sifted the dirt underneath. Where could the girls been? They'd been back in the bedroom if they were back there. So we really went good over that. We went in the front room where the TV was in the corner. Well, what if they're laying in the floor?
Yeah.
What if they were on the couches? So we went through there. We literally got sifters. We had people make sifters, and we put them just looking, was the fire ever hot enough that, like when you incinerate somebody? you get ashes, but you still have bones.
Yeah.
I had a medical examiner that no longer, he was retired, but he stood there and he asked me, "What are you looking for, Lorene?" Because I told him we wasn't done. I mean, they kept asking me every 30 minutes, "Are we done yet?" "No, we're not done. We're not done."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Well, we got better things to do with the time." I said, "No, till I'm 100% sure the girls aren't here, we're not going anywhere."
Mm-hmm.
So they had him come up and introduced himself, and he said, "What are you looking for?" I said, "Well, how hot could this fire have been?"
Mm-hmm.
He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, the real dark, they had used like gasoline, and they walked to the front door in front of the wood stove was real dark. I mean, black as black."
Mm-hmm.
Around the kitchen table, there was a fire ring around the kitchen table, around where the end table in the living room was. It was real black. I said, "Well, that was real dark burn, but everything else ain't burned."
Mm-hmm.
He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, what am I looking for if I find the girls? What are we going to see?" And he said, "If we find the girls, they're probably going to be pretty well intact. They'll be burnt, but you'll know it by their stomachs."
Mm.
I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, I got 3 more places I want to do it, and then I'll tell you when I'm done." So we looked the places, and he said, "Are we done yet?" I said, "Nope, it ain't 5 o'clock yet." He said, "Why 5?" I said, "Well, that's when they decided they were done yesterday. So we're going to sit here from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock, and they're just going to have to sit and watch us."
Yeah.
I mean, I knew then the girls were not in there.
How did that feel to finally search that whole place and realize that they weren't there?
Well, I knew when I left the Freemans, the girls were not in that burn.
Mm.
I mean, when people would ask me, "Are you sure they wasn't there?" I can tell them, no, they were not there.
Did that leave you with hope that they're somewhere still alive, or did it?
And at that point, and even talking with the people that I knew that was like, I could ask questions. We'd already got people together getting a flyer ready that we could start handing out. But I stood there and made the people that were experts stand there all day
Yeah.
just to make a point with them. If there's that much, you can't say 100% when you don't do anything.
Right.
But by that time, I'd already found out if the girls were there, we would have found something.
Right. So, nearly now 20 years after this tragedy, an arrest was finally made, and Ronnie Busick was charged with having involvement in the girls' disappearances and the murders of Ashley's parents. 2 other suspects were also named to have been involved: Warren Phillip Welch and David Pennington. But they were dead by the time they were deemed responsible. Do you feel like these 3 men are the ones responsible?
I say there are 3 and there's still others.
You believe there's others out there?
Oh, I know there is. You don't stay this quiet for nothing.
Right. When you learned about Busick's arrest, how did that feel?
Well, it's because I told them where to go find him.
So you already had an idea it was him.
Well, for the first 16 years, Steve Nutter, the OSBI agent, didn't care. I mean, I would talk to people, because people would call me up, or call people I knew and say, "Hey, Lorene needs to go talk to so-and-so." I would meet him places, and he would walk in to talk to him. He made the comment, "Do you know everybody?" I said, "If I don't, I know somebody that knows somebody that knows these people." And I know in 2016, a girl called up my niece, Lisa. She's been there since day one. The oldest granddaughter, the second granddaughter, Melissa and Laura, was like 3 musketeers. They always did stuff together. Somebody called her up and said, "You need, now that Facebook has come around, you need to do a Facebook page for the girls."
Yeah.
So she sat there in December and helped us do a Facebook page for Laura and Ashley. It says "Find Laura Bible," but we're not finding Laura, I'll find Ashley.
Right.
And then once we put that out there right before Thanksgiving, we had people that would comment on our Facebook. We talked to probably 1,000 people within a month.
Wow.
And most of these was the now grown young people of the people in the drug world.
Okay.
You know, they are now old enough that they're getting married, they have kids, and they're telling us, you know, this is what life was like to be a kid of people in the drug world.
Mm-hmm.
You were to be seen and not heard. You don't repeat anything that happens. But,
Right.
you know, now they have children, and to them, somebody needs to do something.
Yeah, they know what it feels like to have that parental anxiety that I talked about,
Mm-hmm.
and know, like, if anything happens to this child,
Mm-hmm.
like, what am I supposed to do with myself? So
Right.
they care.
Well, I know when the girls disappeared, Craig County, the kids, the teenagers then, when they left home, when you got someplace, you had to call your parents.
Mm-hmm.
If you did not call your parents showed up.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't matter where you were at, they would show up. And there was consequences. You know, when you left those people's home, if you didn't get home at a certain time, your parents come to find you. You know, we had a couple of kids didn't take it seriously enough till their parents showed up at a party.
Yeah.
And then those parents called other parents and they're like, you don't do this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but we were a small town,
Right.
small community. Stuff like this doesn't happen. Will you learn really quick? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how small, how large, crime does happen.
Everywhere.
This stuff happens.
Yeah. So you said you believe other people are responsible besides those three,
Mm-hmm.
but at the time, knowing that the others, you know, deemed responsible were no longer alive.
Well, that's because when we come up and people started talking names,
Yeah.
okay, where are these guys? And that's
Right.
when I found out that Philip Welch had died.
Mm-hmm.
David Pennington had died. And then it's like, okay, where's Busick at?
Yeah.
Where is he at? You know, there's two other people. There was like 5 of them that ran in a bunch.
Yeah, okay. So that's why you have a feeling that there's
Mm-hmm.
the other two were involved. I'm curious how it felt, though, to look up those people or try to find those people and find out that they're dead. Did it feel like that was enough justice, or were you upset because,
Well,
you know, 2 people that are responsible, you know, that know where the girls are gone?
at the first thing, it's like, how can the Lord take the girls, disappear them off the face of the look like they never existed, and then people that were responsible are now dead. You know, you can't hold them accountable.
Yeah.
But, through this all, you have to have a lot of faith
Yeah.
from day to day, and you think, well, they already met the Maker. You know, they've had to answer for those things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got to, otherwise, you got to keep your focus instead of hatred. How are we going to find those girls?
Right.
So, the third day, the girls went missing. I had a friend that was friends with, he did America's Most Wanted, John Walsh's wife.
Mm.
And when this happened, when Laura disappeared, my friend Jennifer called her friend. They called her John's wife.
Mm.
And by then they were ex-wife.
Mm.
And said, hey, we got this. It just happened in our small community. 2 girls are gone. Both parents have been shot.
Yeah.
House on fire. And she called John and said, hey, we got a situation.
Yeah.
And he told me, he said, well, we're going to pull footage from one of the TV stations that was there, and we're going to put it out on America's Most Wanted episode on Friday night.
Yeah.
And then the following one, we'll do a little more. But next week, I'll send a team to Veneta.
Mm-hmm.
He said, we'll get this. But he told me then, he said, you got to make a decision right here and now. He said, if you want this to be seen, be heard, you're either going to go hide in a closet or you're going to have to become Laura's voice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I told him, I said, I don't hide for nothing.
Yeah, you haven't hit this entire time.
He said, I said, I don't hide, so what do I need to do? He said, you got to keep it up there. You have to do it. And I know that's going to be hard. He said, you and your husband needs to know that bad things happen to good people.
Mm.
He said, if I had somebody that told me and my wife when our son disappeared, he said, we're divorced now, but he said there was nobody saying stuff. And we got in there, if you'd have done this, if I'd have done this. He said,
the what ifs will drive you crazy.
He said, you cannot let that do that. He said, I know I've already heard you have strong beliefs and stuff. He said, don't point the finger at each other because it will ruin your marriage.
Right.
So, with that, that's why I go at this.
Yeah.
Still 25 and a half years later is, what more do I have to do? What do I got to do today?
Yeah. You mentioned this just now and then earlier. So according to the affidavit, Ashley's parents were shot before the fire started, or at least at some point.
Kathy was shot in the back of the head, like she was running back into her bedroom, like she got out of bed, and they shot her from behind because she was laying over the bed. Like the bed was north and south, and she was laying over the bed.
Got it.
Her face was looking back to the south. So her stomach laying on the waterbed.
It was like she fell over the bed, not okay.
And then Danny, like I said, he was laying face up in the doorway. His feet was actually touching the bottom of the waterbed. And then this hand was, what was left of this hand was laying in the doorway. As you walked into the doorway, this arm was laying in the wall, against the wall there.
And you said his face was...
He did not have a face.
So the affidavit also claims that Welch had photos showing the girls tied up, gagged, and he kept those on him. There was also something about the girls being kept alive for quite some time before being eventually killed. Do you believe, and you can feel free not to answer this, but do you believe Laura and Ashley are alive still?
No.
No. Okay. So what were you told possibly happened to the girls?
Well, after talking to people over there, they were taken from the Freeman property and driven over to Pitcher. There's a trailer now. There's a memorial site for the girls where that trailer used to be, because it's a super fun site, so there's no houses in Pitcher anymore. After the tornado went through there in 2008, or 2018, it destroyed the whole town. And the government bought out the people that were still there. But there's a memorial site on the site where the trailer was that the girls were held in. We've been told by numerous people that visit the drug scene, go to parties, that they were taken to a party. They were drugged. They were injected with drugs. They were passed around to people to use, raped, sodomized, beat. And then eventually the girls were drugged and shot. We've been told that they were dismembered, put in 55-gallon barrels, and put down mine shafts, because the Neosha River runs through that area. Put down in the Neosha River, down in the caverns, name it. But the abuse part is always, always there. It's just how they died, where they are.
How do you... Obviously, you said it kind of matter-of-factly because you've had to think about this every day. How do you cope with that?
Well, it's just, to me, if I let the bad, it will take over. Right. And then who's going to search for my daughter?
Yeah, it'll just go
the
away. Pain will drown out everything.
Well, you let that and it takes over the initial, let's do what I need to do.
Yeah. So, based on the affidavit, investigators believe the girls may have been kept and killed somewhere in the Pitcher area, like you mentioned. How did they search that area?
Oh, we've been searching that area now since probably 2018. A couple of times we'd go to the area as other things would come up. We went on 2 different properties over by Wyandotte, Twin Bridges areas, and searched it before we ended up we went to Chautauqua. We literally went through houses, cellars. We even dug up a house that had been put down in there just to make sure that a person that was involved in a murder that knew Danny, that he was his buddy over there, that the girls couldn't be when they took that house and put it in the basement. So,
were these searches that happened in Pitcher, were any law enforcement agencies involved, or were these searches that you were doing yourself?
No, when we go in there and do that, Wyandotte Nation, the Quabaw Nation Indians are remarkable. You know, OSBI is there. You know, by 2016, Steve Nutter had retired, and Tammy Ferrari is the OSBI agent for ours. I remember one day I kept hearing there's this investigator that was ever so often coming up asking people stuff. Well, from where Dwayne, the stepbrother, lived and where we lived is 3 miles straight west of him. Had nobody come and talk to the parents of Laura. Nobody. So I found out where he was at. He was in Claremore in the DA's office. So one day I worked in Claremore, and I just went up there and told him who I was, and I was very loud and said, well, I want to talk to this investigator that seems to be talking to everybody but the mom of the little girl.
Yeah.
The only living parent. I don't see nobody doing that. Well, everybody come out of their offices real quick, and the DA, Matt Ballard, come and said, well, I'm Matt. And I said, okay. And I said, where's this investigator at? Where's this Gary Stansel? Well, Gary come out of his room and other people, because I didn't know if I was a loose cannon. And we got to talking. He said, well, this is what we're doing. This is what we believe. Well, where'd you get your information from? Well, we've got the book from the OSBI that was involved at the time. I said, well, I guarantee you, he was stupid and he didn't care. I'll just tell you, I have no faith in that man at all from day one. He left a body in the fire. He walked all over a body and then claimed the fire was too hot. That's why they didn't find him. But he released the scene. Well, by then, they'd got Tammy Ferrari, the new OSBI agent, in. She introduced herself, and she said, well, this is the information we got. I opened it up and started looking at his, quote, his book of everything, and I said, well, this is half the stuff that should be in this book is not here. Well, how do you know that? Because this should be in there. How do you know that? Because I was talking with the people when he walked in. But if anybody was in the drug world and they went and talked to him, was not in his book. Not in his book at all. Because they're drug people. They don't know anything. So at that point, I said, well, let me tell you this. Because this is 2016 or 17. It may have been after the first of the year. I said, you keep saying that you're here for me, you're going to do whatever I want. Because apparently I know more than you people know.
Yeah.
Because for 16 years, OSBI county hadn't done nothing. They wasn't even keeping us updated on what was going on. It was a cold case.
Yeah.
And I said, well, here's what I did. Well, how did you get that information? Well, here's what we've been doing. The family, the people that's out every day trying to find these girls. So they found out real quick that they didn't have all the information. I told him, I said, I lived 3 miles from Dwayne. You should have. So they told me, I said, well, tomorrow I'm going to Chautauqua, Kansas, and I'm going to find a well. You say you're going there? Well, let's see how you are, because I will be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, tomorrow come, and they brought cameras, they brought the forensic teams. And so when we do digs, we got forensic, we got teams there that can scuba dive, they can send cameras down, you name it, it's there.
Right.
And of course, because the girls were minors, the FBI is always involved.
Right.
Lauria is an Indian, she's Cherokee Indian, so the Indian Bureau is always involved. So when we do anything, and, people, they started re-talking to everybody. Anybody had names, we put out there, you got to call us. On the Find Laura Bible page, it's just me and my niece that hears people, talks to people. A lot of people don't want to be known because they won't want something to happen to their loved one.
Right.
But they'll tell us, this is what we heard. This is how we know what we're doing.
Right.
So, we're able to use that as a way to keep it out there.
So obviously before you said 2016, 2017, law enforcement was not forthcoming with you. Has that changed now?
Well, for a long time we were able, but as the years go by, it gets few and far between. I know I found out that the OSBI with other entities was going to go and do something, and they didn't tell me about it, but somebody called me up and let me know. And they brought entities in to see if we go in and we go to the mine shafts. There's 150 mine shafts in Pitcher.
Goodness.
But that's going to take people that know how to go in and recover.
Right.
But they did that without my knowledge. And I was going to blow it up today that they were there. I mean, I went, it was getting ready for the 25th anniversary. We were getting ready to get the memorial site ready. And when they were having that, and I was going to call up every news station I had, every media, everything I had, but it's not the entities that come. Those are the people that's going to help me get my daughter out of wherever she's at. I had two, and they knew real quick.
Yeah.
You ever do that ever again, and that'll be it.
Right.
Because the one that will fight, she's there. And it will not be good. So now when they get ready to do stuff, I said, we always have a good working relationship to here lately. Why? Well, as it goes on, we need to do this. No. I can keep my mouth shut. I know people, I've talked to probably 10,000 people that nobody even knows who they are. So, no, you're not going to set them play that card.
Yeah.
You chose. You choose it again, and it'll be bad. I mean, the night of the girls' 25-year anniversary, the people that found out real quick, because there was so much media, newspaper, people there, whether it's newspapers, podcast, they come to the 25th. They's like, a lot of people. Well, for 25 years, these are the people that have kept it alive for Lauren and Ashley. But you ever rung me again, these people will rip you apart. And I will use every one of them to do it.
So, in May of 2023, that's when Ronnie Busick was released from prison. He served about 2.5 to 3 years of his sentence.
Almost 18 months of that was in the Craig County Jail.
Yeah. How did that affect you when he was released?
Well, I got a phone call that says, hey, something's in the work that Ronnie might get out. Well, how can he get out? Well, we don't know how that happened, but it's possible he could come out. Okay, it went from possible in like February till by April, he's coming out. We made phone calls to people that we knew. Who do we need to talk to? We need phone numbers. We need addresses of the governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, anybody can we get this stopped? Because at no point in the negotiations did it say that he didn't have to serve. I mean, he got 10 years.
Right.
He'd served 2 years in the county. He still had 8 years. How is he walking out of there in 18 months?
What did they tell you was the reason he was released early?
Because he got out on good behavior. Because in the DOC records, and you can go pull them, and it will say he got a day off his sentence from brushing his teeth. He got a couple of days off because he handed papers to another inmate. This is the stuff that lists how he got. So for every month he served, he got 2 months off his sentence.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this obviously led to you seeking changes in the law.
Yeah.
So situations like this don't occur again.
Right.
So tell me about Laura and Ashley's law.
Well, Laura and Ashley's law, at the time when Busick got out, my niece was friends with a lady in Miami whose husband was a state representative, Steve Bayshore. We talked to him along with our Craig County senator who is used to run our donut shop in Veneta, and then he become a representative, and they're the ones that got us email addresses. They're the ones that said this is who you need to talk to. We spent 2 weeks emailing people to see if we could stop it. And Drummond, the Attorney General, he said, we can't stop this.
Yeah.
And at that point, he said, but we need to make sure this don't happen again. So Steve Bayshore says, let's do something that says if somebody is convicted of accessory to murder, that whatever sentence that's handed down from the judge, that they have to serve 85%. They can't get out on good behavior to stop this. Because at the time, there was like 4 people in the car here in Tulsa, and 1 person was shooting people. Well, 3 of them didn't have to do nothing. Just the one that they said, well, he's the one that shot.
Yeah.
Well, you 3 knew about it. You 3 didn't, you didn't go forward to say, hey, this is what happened. Same ways. I know that when Ronnie Busick, because on his Facebook page, he had pictures of Wichita, Kansas on there. I know that because I have my brother's son lived in Wichita. He went to college there. Him and his wife lived there. And he said, well, Aunt Reen, those pictures are here in Wichita. How do you know that, Robert? Because it's this and this and this. Yeah. So I told them, I said, he's not. They thought that Ronnie Busick was down at Jerome, down in central southern Oklahoma, Geronimo. His sister lived there. And she was bad. I said, he's not there. He's in Wichita, Kansas. The picture's on his Facebook page.
When they were looking to arrest him.
Right.
Yeah.
So sure enough, they called there, found the location, asked him. Well, just when they ran his name, he'd been caught for stuff, and he still had a warrant out for his arrest because he didn't come forward for court cases and pay any on his fines. So they went to the address that was listed when he was arrested, and he was in the backyard grilling.
Comfy.
So they arrested him in Wichita and took him back to their jail because of jumping bail or whatever. Then Gary Stanley, the DA, and Tammy Ferrari went over there and got the extradition papers to bring him back to the state of Oklahoma.
After he got released from prison, he ended up moving quite close to you. Is that correct?
Right. He went to, well, they say that they took him and put him on a bus. They did not. I mean, early morning they come and told us, because I went there, we was across the street from the prison there in Oklahoma City, and said, well, he was taken out here at 6:30. He didn't leave there till 9:30. He was in a solid black van. They took him on the west side of Oklahoma City. There's a place that's called Helping Hands, and this is a place that has old, small trailers, like in the 40s and the 50s, that they rent out to people that come out of prison and have nowhere to go. Because he has a niece and a nephew, said, we don't want him.
Yeah.
The people that he lived with in Wichita said, stay away from here. So he had no place to go. So they took him over there and dumped him off at that place. He did not follow the rules in that place. So he was told he had to leave. By that time, he got somebody to drive him from Oklahoma City to Chautauqua, Kansas. Supposedly, he talked to a woman, and she told him she had this house. You can come here. Give me X amount of money, and you can come here. So he sent her money, got somebody to drive him, and got put into a house that's falling down. Then he was out front because he has a walker.
Was he even allowed to leave the state at that point if he had just gotten released?
No, but who's keeping up with him? I mean, that's it. Nobody's keeping up with these people. And from my house to Chautauqua, Kansas is 17 miles. Wow. So he's up there, finds out that he's been took for money. And he can't live in this house. So he's walking on the sidewalk with this little, kind of like a little wheelchair that you can sit down in, and he falls and stumbles. Somebody sees this person laying on the sidewalk bleeding, so they call 911. The Chautauqua police gets there. The sheriff department comes in and finds out it's Ronnie Busick. They take him over to Parsons, Kansas, takes him to the doctor, hospital, gets him a room for the night, and the next morning, he lets out, there's a Walmart close to wherever he's at. He goes over there and gets these gift cards or whatever he can get, and he's making thingy, and they call up the Chautauqua police and tells him, you need to come back and get this man. Get him out of our town. Because there is a place for homeless in Parsons, but it goes by, they didn't want him because he's dealt in the middle of kids. You know, with disappearance of kids, they say he can't come in here.
Yeah.
So he goes and stays with people in Chautauqua. And then when people in Chautauqua tell him you need to leave, because I did go online, they tell me I can't arrest him. I can let people know this man is in your neighborhood. Protect your kids, protect your wives, protect your husbands, protect your property. He may be 70 years old, but he's still capable of something. Well, at some point, he was told by the people in Chautauqua, you need to leave town or you're going to die. So he somehow gets a ride to Parsons. And for a while after that, he would go spend the day in the Parsons Police Department. Because I had told people to kill him. I didn't tell people to kill him. I just tell them, you're in their town.
Yeah.
And then he up and disappeared. So I know people that know people that know people. And he's now here in Tulsa.
Oh, so he's here now. You're keeping track.
Oh, yeah. I don't go see him. I just know where he's at.
Did you ever, going through the case and everything, did you ever learn why?
It went back to Danny Freeman. You know, at the time when your kids are friends with people, you just have, a relationship, mom and dad. When you really make it your business to find out about the other people, you find out there's things people don't know. They don't know what really goes on in the houses.
Yeah.
You know, when I was growing up, my dad was an alcoholic. Kids did not come to my house. You know, there was 4 of us. We left home at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, went to school. We were involved in school. We all got jobs when we were 14, 15 years old. But when I found out, no, it goes back to Danny, we found out that he grew marijuana and sold it. Before he was killed, him and a gentleman by the name of in Chautauqua, they grew marijuana on the Oklahoma side and the Kansas side. So if authorities would ever come and stop one, they still had drugs, the marijuana to sell. But when Shane was shot and killed by our county deputy, Danny decided it didn't matter. He'd been accused of child abuse. Shane was taken out of the home for 6 months. DHS told Shane he had to go back home, and he said, I will not go back home. Will not go back in there.
So Danny was accused of child abuse of Shane?
Yes.
Okay, and so when Shane got arrested and everything, or repeat that. Go back.
When Shane was in school, his dad beat him one morning. Shane went to school.
From what Shane says.
Well, no, what the teachers.
Oh,
when Shane got to school, he had athletics, basketball. When Shane went into the shower room, where the boys shower, he had blood running down his back and down the back of his legs where his dad had beat him.
Oh, goodness.
One of the boys went and got the coach. The coach walked in there and said, Shane, are you all right? And he said, yeah, I will be. But that coach went to the principal's office, superintendent's office, and called DHS and 911. Shane was taken out of their home because of it. Well, you know, DHS says they have this trying to reunite families. Well, they had told Shane at Christmas he had to go back home. And Shane and his friends to this day will still say Shane said he would not go back home. He'd either commit suicide or he'd get in confrontation with law enforcement. And his death was ruled suicide by cop. But due to that, you have a year to sue your county with wrongful death. So Danny decided he was such a loving husband and father that he didn't cause Shane to do this. So he was trying to find a lawyer that would go put up a thing and sue the county. That deadline for doing that was January the 9th.
So right before
Right before. But they talked to quite a few lawyers, and I know this because Ashley had told this when she came to our house after Christmas, that most of them had told them that Shane's case was suicide by cop. He didn't want to go back home. She said, but Mom and Dad talked to somebody before Christmas, and they told them they needed to come up with $5,000, and she'd look at the case, and she'd tell them if they had a chance or not before the 9th of January.
So do you kind of believe in this theory that somebody was trying to stop that from happening?
I believe that Denny, because what we were told right after that Denny owed somebody some money. And when it come time to pay it back, I'm not doing it. That was Denny Freeman. I mean, he was very set in your ways. You're not going to make me do anything. When the kids still lived over by us, Denny had a black powder gun go off in his face. And they had to have all this steel plate and stuff put in this. So when he'd get mad, he'd go crazy mad. I know there's times that Kathy would take the kids and leave till he calmed down enough. So to him, he was master of my house. I was king of my castle. I'm going to do what I want.
So your theory is that it was a revenge of some sort because he wouldn't do something or he did something.
Yeah, he did something that he owed somebody. I mean, most people tell us that Denny owed somebody money, and when it come time, because he's trying to get money to sue the county, because he was right about everything and they're so wrong, that he didn't pay back the money he is. And that's talking with people in the drug world, because it's not that I mean, there are good people, but there are some bad people, but it didn't matter. I've talked to them. And they say there's calling cards. If you go against somebody for something, other people that are doing the same business knows if you defied me, this is how you'll end up too. Because when we found Danny, he didn't have a hand.
Yeah.
Now, they tell me the fire was so did it burn it. Well, if that's so, these handprints was found over here in this wall. Every one of them. All 5 fingers. But there was just a bone sticking up here when we found him. And we were told by a drug runner that was one of the cartel's thing is, okay, you do what they want. So, because I talked to one of them. And that man looked at me and says, I have a wife and I have children. When somebody wrongs me in my cartel, I don't take it out on their wives and their children. I deal with the person. Well, I was told this was your calling card. He said, I'm telling you, I don't do wives and I don't do kids. I take care of the people in my organization that are trying to, take cuts from me, but I don't do that to them. And he even went and searched Mexico for the girls.
Wow.
He had enough ties he could go because of taking the girls for human trafficking. We'd heard that the girls were taken to Mexico. Because the whole time we're searching, waiting for law enforcement to do their job, you can be anywhere in 48 hours.
Right.
But he did. It took about 6 months after I met with that man, and he said, I'm going to look, and at some point, wherever you are, somebody will show up. And sure enough, about 6 months afterwards, I had a young man show up at my job and ask for Miss Bible. And he's a little short Mexican kid, and he said, your daughter, she has the mole on her face? I said, yeah. He said, she nowhere in Mexico, nowhere. And Ashley was the dirty blonde. She not there neither.
Wow. The connections you've made in order to find these girls is immense.
Most people say if that was me, I said, people tell me that.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody has your child, you're the only one that wants to find them. I mean, yes, law enforcement says, oh, we're doing everything. But a parent, grandparent, you have to do whatever it is you can do to keep it going. So.
And you don't know what you're capable of doing and what you will do until that is your child. Mm-hmm. Also, I kind of want to know, besides, the law, Lauren Ashley's law, tell me about the store you opened.
Okay, well, I retired after 38 years working for McDonald's Corporation. And I went home. I had to have surgery because I had a liver transplant in 2021. I'd had a liver disease for years. Never stopped me from doing whatever I wanted. It just got where the point that I couldn't function, and the doctor says, okay, you're on the transplant list. I walked up until the day I got my transplant. But I'd had a hernia, and I had to have that fixed, so I wasn't really doing a lot. And then after I recovered, I started helping a friend. We're doing an event center in Veneta. And her husband, 3 doors down, a guy had a building trying to sell it. And he called up her husband one day and said, hey, you guys want to buy my building? It adjoins your buildings. So we had been talking about what we needed for Main Street. Everybody's main streets are closing up, nothing there. So we're trying to rejuvenate our Main Street. And we'd already decided, well, if we had a building, we could open up a resale shop. So it just so happened that guy says, here's what I want for the building. So within a couple of days, Drew asked Sarah, said, what are we going to do with another building? We both said resale shop. And then she said, well, how are we going to do that? I said, well, let's make it a nonprofit. I said, now that I've retired, we've got the scholarship fund that we'd started in probably 2019-18. I said, it's a way to fund the scholarship fund. Continue that in the girls' honor, keep the word out there. So that's how Pooh's new and barely used resale shop. It funds the scholarship fund for the girls. It's also a way I'm selling Helen Heartland books out of the store. I've worked out a deal between the author and the publishing company. They send me straight from the publishing company now.
Wow.
When I started, I'd order them on Amazon. And then when they found out what I was doing, they're like, okay, Jax, why don't we help her?
Yeah.
So we've probably sold 75 books in the last 3 months.
Wow.
Keep the word out. Here's what's going on. People come in, oh, I heard this. They have their theories.
Yeah. Well, if you know anything about Laura and Ashley's case, please call the OSBI at 1-800-522-8017, or you can email tips@osbi.ok.gov. Or you can do the Find Laura Bible Facebook page. The Find Laura
Bible Facebook page. My personal phone number is on that page.
All right.
If anybody wants to be anonymous, you can do it. There's only 2 of us, me and my niece, Lisa, that sees anybody's comments. Nobody else sees them.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Lorene, for being here and telling me Laura and Ashley's story.
Well, like I said, this is how we continue, to help bring the girls home. Like I said, we are still currently working on that. We've got a couple of tips in that we're working on, but it rained so much, it kind of put it into it. Now I'm hoping that it dries up and we can continue on with that. But, you never know. I mean, they've told us from the beginning, you're just one phone call, one tip away from bringing the girls home. And at this point, that's what we want to do.
Absolutely.
We want to bring the girls home.
Let's bring them home. Thank you.
Thank you.